Hey, this is your Cultural Catholic Joshua coming at you with another Knowledge Monday, and today we're going to take a break from the mini-series on Indian history, and I'm going to talk a little bit about an interesting article that I found that a friend of mine posted on partisanship and news coverage that I found really interesting, and I want to share with you. So, the article states that the 2016 presidential election shook the foundation of American politics. Media reports immediately looked for external disruption to explain the unanticipated victory, with theories ranging from Russian hacking to fake news. We have a less exotic but perhaps more disconcerting explanation. Our own study of over 1.25 million stories published online between April 1st, 2015 and Election Day shows that a right-wing media network anchored around Breitbart developed as a distinct and insulated media system using social media as a background to transmit a hyper-partisan perspective to the world. This pro-Drumpf, I use the make Donald Trump again add-on, media sphere appears to have not only successfully set the agenda for the conservative media sphere, but also strongly influenced the broader media agenda, in particular coverage of Hillary Clinton. Now, to just take a little look at the what it looked like, here is what the Twitter version looked like, and you can see a lot of dots. The dark blues, those who are pretty much Hillary supporters. The reds are pretty much the dark blues. That is, and the reds, the really bright reds, are predominantly Trump supporters. The lighter bluish, maybe purple, are those who go back and forth, who are like Trump supporters and Hillary supporters, but go to those media sources. And the green are very similar as well. And the light pink are, again, Trump Hillary supporters. They go towards those, but they, again, lean specifically towards one. And the green are those who they go there on equal amount. And you can see CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Politico, HuffPost, The Hill, and Breitbart, these massive circles, as well as Fox News. On the Twitter map, and then on the Facebook map, it's very similar, although the Breitbart circle is a lot bigger and much farther to the right. Basically, what they did is they looked at social media posts connected to news articles from certain sources, and I'm going to use news articles just to try to be as objective as possible. And they saw a lot of connections between different news sources and association with particular support. Now, you'll see right here a chart with specific sources connected to specific camps. You'll notice on the Trump side there are quite a few actual sources. And then you have Breitbart, Fox News, the Gateway Pundit, the Washington Examiner, New York Post, The Right Scoop, Conservative Tribune, things that aren't exactly legitimate sources, and they're mixed in with actual sources. And on the Hillary side, there's a lot more actual sources as well as partisan sources that, to be honest, are a little bit more accurate than the right-wing partisan sources. Not that there aren't propaganda-ish or inaccurate stories posted in left-wing sites as well. It's just that the data is a little bit more geared towards right-leaning sources being inaccurate. So they took a look at all of this, and they noted that our analysis challenges a simple narrative that the internet as a technology is what fragments public discourse and polarizes opinions by allowing us to inhabit filtered bubbles or just read the Daily Me. If technology were the most important driver towards a post-truth world, we would expect to see symmetric patterns on the left and the right. Different internal political dynamics in the right and the left led to different patterns in the reception and use of the technology by each wing. While Facebook and Twitter certainly enabled right-wing media to circumvent the gatekeeping power of traditional media, the pattern was not symmetric. The size of the nodes marking traditional professional media like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN, surrounded by the Hill, ABC, and NBC, tells us that these media drew particularly large audiences. Their color tells us that Clinton followers attended to them more than Trump supporters, and their proximity on the map to more quintessentially partisan sites like Huffington Post, MSNBC, or the Daily Beast suggests that attention to these more partisan outlets on the left are more tightly interwoven with attention to traditional media. The Breitbart-centered wing, by contrast, is farther from the mainstream and set and lacks bridging nodes that draw attention and connect it to the mainstream. Now, what they're saying there is, while there were nodes, those little circles that connected to more partisan sites on the left, it wasn't as common on the right. And there's this trope that the internet allows us to really filter down what we want to look at, and we end up just going to those things exclusively. I like the Young Turks, Secular Talk, Majority Report. I do go there for a vast amount of my news, but I also do go to more traditional sources for my Wednesday and Friday sources, so that I have a much more balanced and a tradition, a base from which to go from, and a lot of conservative supporters just went to those, and those similar like Daily Caller, things like that. A little bit of anecdotal evidence. My dad used to be a conservative, and he's friends with a lot of people who are currently conservative. And yeah, every so often I'd see like a Yahoo or another traditional news source from what my dad would comment on when they would post, and they, instead of actually ingesting the article, trying to understand it, they would say lies or some crap like that. But when they would post Breitbart or Daily Caller or things like that, they would say, "This is the truth. This is just proving our point." And I would see a vast majority of Breitbart, Daily Caller, things of that nature instead of actual news sources. So this is a disturbing trend that these authors note, and these authors are Yochai Benkler, Robert Ferris, Hall Roberts, and Ethan Zuckerman, and they work for MIT and a few other journalism sources that are academics, and they did a very good job at taking a look at what is going on and analyzing it. And a really interesting trend that they note, and something that they noted about this, is that a remarkable feature of the right-wing media ecosystem is how new it is. Out of all the outlets favored by Trump supporters, only the New York Post existed when Ronald Reagan was elected president in 1980. By the election of Bill Clinton in 1992, only the Washington Times, Rush Limbaugh, and arguably Sean Hannity had joined the fray. Alex Jones of InfoWars started his first outlet on the radio in 1996. Fox News was not founded until 1996. Breitbart was founded in 2007, and most of the other major nodes in the right-wing media system were created even later. Outside the right wing, the map reflects a mixture of high attention to traditional media sources and dispersed attention to new, online-only, and partisan media. So what they're saying there is that while a lot of traditional media has existed for a while, these right-wing conservative ones are relatively new. The oldest one is about 37 years old, as it exists today, when Rupert Murdoch took control of the New York Post. But otherwise, everything else is fairly new. I remember not ever knowing what Breitbart was. Now, granted, I grew up knowing what Fox News was because, I was born in the 90s. Most of my memories are from the late 90s, early 2000s, and Fox News was a Granted, not a staple in my house because my family is fairly liberal, but my dad did watch it every so often just to see what they were saying. Um, and this is a very disturbing thing, and the authors actually at the end do note a possible way to deal with this, and their conclusions as well. Use of disinformation by partisan media sources is neither new nor limited to the right wing, but the insulation of the partisan right wing media from traditional journalistic media sources and the vehemence of its attacks on journalism and common cause with a similarly outspoken president is new and distinctive, rebuilding a basis on which Americans can form a shared belief about what is going on is a precondition of democracy and the most important task confronting the press going forward. Our data strongly suggests that most Americans, including those who access news through social networks, continue to pay attention to traditional media, following professional journalistic practices, and cross-reference what they read on partisan sites with what they read on mass media sites. To accomplish this, traditional media needs to reorient, not by developing better viral content and clickbait to compete in the social media environment, but by recognizing that it is operating in a propaganda and disinformation rich environment. This is not not Macedonian teenagers or Facebook is the real challenge of the coming years. Rising to this challenge could usher in a golden age for the estate. So what it's basically saying is disinformation isn't new. Disinformation isn't exclusive to the right wing. Left wing has done it. It is not as common as a lot of fact checkers have noted, but it does happen. And additionally, to fix this, don't go for clickbait. Traditional media and other media sources should try to reorient themselves to kind of try to counteract the things that are said and done in these these newer and conservative sites, so that ultimately we can get to a much better discourse. Because if we're able to have a basic set of facts, that's what journalism and news is supposed to bring, is give us the facts and information and data. If we all agree that these facts are real, then we can come up with solutions to deal with the facts that come up. But instead, a lot of right-wing media outlets, as we've noted, don't really agree on the facts with traditional and other media outlets, but instead create their own or come to different conclusions based on some information and paranoid logic and other fears that are set by the right wing, because it has been noted that the right wing kind of sets how things are framed in our news media. And if we're able to find a way to get around that and fix the problem, we can actually fix the problems that are facing our country instead of bickering with each other. Is basically the point of the article. I will have a link to it in the description below. So you guys should really check it out. It's a bit of a read, but it's a good read. Next week I'll get back to the mini-series. I'll probably do a couple of more episodes. Next week I'll cover what happened in World War One, and then following that I'll probably end it out with post-World War One into World War Two and independence. I'm not sure what I'll go with after that. This is Josh Brazil, your cultural Catholic, signing off.